Here's a question that sounds simple until you actually sit with it. Why does a squirrel bolt at the sight of you but not at the sight of a deer twice its size? Why does a wild boar freeze when it smells a person but not when it smells a wolf? You are, biologically speaking, a soft, slow, clawless primate with terrible night vision and no natural weapons to speak of. And yet you are the single most feared creature on planet Earth. Every animal on the food chain, from the smallest rodent to the largest elephant, has developed an instinctive, bone-deep fear of human beings. Today we're counting down the reasons why, from the ancient and subtle to the terrifyingly recent. Let's start at number 10 and work our way to the one reason that changes how you'll look at every animal you meet for the rest of your life. Number 10. The smell that doesn't belong. Around 2 million years ago, on the grass plains of ancient Africa, something new started drifting on the wind. Not smoke, not blood. Just an unfamiliar scent, sweat skin, and the strange biochemical signature of an upright ape that didn't smell like any predator the animals of that era had ever cataloged. Picture the scene. A herd of ancient antelope grazing peacefully, ears twitching at every gust of wind, running an internal checklist of familiar dangers. Lion check, hyena check. This new smell didn't fit any category. You'd think unfamiliarity might make animals curious rather than cautious, and for a while it did. Early human ancestors weren't yet particularly threatening, but evolution runs on the rule of better safe than sorry, and any animal that treated an unknown scent with suspicion tended to survive slightly longer than the ones that didn't. Generation after generation, caution around this strange-smelling upright creature got quietly written into the instincts of the African savanna. Here's the twist. This wasn't fear of humans specifically, not yet. It was fear of the unknown, and humans simply happened to be new. But new things that consistently show up right before bad outcomes stop being neutral very quickly. Within a few 100,000 years, unfamiliar ape smell had been upgraded in the animal brain from ignore to monitor closely. As you can see from my extremely rigorous stick figure recreation, that's basically a sniffing gazelle with a little worry line above its head. But that worry line was the first draft of a fear that would eventually span the entire globe. That's the origin point. But smell alone doesn't explain why a lion will stand its ground against another lion, yet back away from a human standing still. For that we need number 9. Number 9. The upright posture problem. Most predators on Earth hunt low to the ground. A leopard slinks. A crocodile submerges. A wolf lowers its shoulders and creeps through grass. Low, horizontal, and quiet is the universal body language of "I am hunting you." Humans, on the other hand, do something almost no other primate predator does. We stand fully upright all the time, out in the open, in broad daylight. Picture a herd of early ancient buffalo on a floodplain. A lion approaching low through tall grass barely registers until it's dangerously close. But a human ancestor walking upright across open ground is visible from enormous distances, silhouette on the horizon, moving in a straight, deliberate line, often in a group. It shouldn't be scary, it's the opposite of stealthy. But here's the turn: predictability and visibility don't mean weakness, they mean something worse. It means the creature isn't afraid of being seen. Every other animal that hides, ducks, and creeps does so because it fears being spotted. A creature that walks tall, stares directly at potential threats, and doesn't break eye contact is broadcasting a very different message, one that ancient animal brains eventually learned to translate correctly: confidence. And confidence in the animal kingdom is often a synonym for dangerous. Imagine every other predator as a shadow moving through the grass, and then imagine the one predator that doesn't need to hide. That's a genuinely unsettling image once you sit with it. That upright confidence was only the visual half of the story, though. The real shift happened when humans stopped needing to get close at all. That brings us to number 8. Number 8. The first weapon changed everything. For a long stretch of prehistory, ancient humans were dangerous only up close, bitten, wrestled, physically overpowered like any other mid-sized predator. Animals could keep a respectful distance and largely be safe. Then somewhere around 400,000 years ago, something happened that rewired the entire predator-prey relationship on this planet: the wooden spear. Picture an ancient hunting party, spears balanced in hand, approaching a herd of ancient horses from 30 feet away, a distance that for any other predator would mean nothing. 30 feet is safe. 30 feet is a nap-taking distance from a lion. But for the first time in the history of life on Earth, a creature could kill from beyond arm's reach. Here's the disturbing part: prey animals had spent millions of years calibrating their safe distance instincts around claws, teeth, and pouncing range. That calibration was suddenly, catastrophically wrong. An early human standing motionless 30 feet away wasn't harmless anymore. It was one throw away from lethal. Animals didn't understand physics or leverage or velocity. All they understood was that the safety margin they'd trusted for millions of years had silently been deleted. This is the moment fear of humans stopped being about smell or posture and became about consequence. A gazelle that ignored a human at safe distance might simply never get the chance to learn from that mistake. Only the ones with an exaggerated, almost paranoid caution toward humans survived to pass on their genes. Within a relatively short evolutionary window, give humans an unusually wide berth became hardwired, but a spear is still a short-range tool at heart. What happens when humans figure out how to kill from 100 paces without even needing to get close? That's number 7, and it's where hunting stopped being a fair fight in any sense of the word. Number 7. The bow that ended the illusion of distance. Somewhere between 60,000 and 70,000 years ago, ancient humans developed the bow and arrow, and with it, the ability to kill from distances that no prey animal had ever needed to worry about before. Imagine a deer standing at the edge of a clearing, 100 feet from the nearest human, utterly relaxed. By every instinct passed down through countless generations, that deer is completely safe. 100 feet is a joke of a distance. Even a spear thrower can't reach that far reliably, but everything was about to change. The bow made far away meaningless. A human could now stand at a distance that felt entirely safe by every ancestral rule of thumb, and still deliver a lethal strike. For animals, this was less like a new predator arriving and more like the rules of physics themselves quietly shifting against them, with no warning and no way to relearn safety in time. The scaled comparison here is almost unsettling. Imagine spending your whole life believing you were safe as long as you stayed one football field away from any danger, only to discover that the danger could now reach you from twice that distance, invisibly, silently, before you even noticed you were being watched. That's the bow from the perspective of every prey animal on the continent. This is also the point where fear of humans stopped being learnable through direct experience, because there often wasn't a second chance to learn. Evolution had to bake in caution before the fact, not after. Animals began giving humans absurdly wide berths, avoiding open areas near human settlements altogether, out of instincts that had no rational understanding of arrow, only overwhelming statistical pressure toward stay far, far away. And yet even the bow was just one hunter at a time. What happens when humans stop hunting alone entirely? Number 6 is where the real transformation begins, because coordinated groups turn a single predator into something animals had never encountered before. Number 6. Hunting in packs, but smarter. Wolves hunt in packs. Lions hunt in prides. Coordinated group hunting isn't unique to humans. But here's the distinction that made all the difference. Animal pack hunting runs almost entirely on instinct, refined slowly over generations. Human group hunting ran on something else entirely: communication, planning, and the ability to invent new strategies within a single lifetime, and then teach them to others immediately. Picture an ancient herd of mammoths on a floodplain roughly 40,000 years ago. A wolf pack approaching would follow a predictable pattern that the mammoth's ancestors had encountered 1,000 times before: flank the weak, isolate the young, wear down through exhaustion. Herds had countermeasures baked in through evolution. Circle the vulnerable, present tusks outward, hold the group tight. But human hunters didn't need generations to develop a new tactic. They could invent one on the spot and use it that same afternoon. Drive lines built from stacked stones. Fire used to funnel animals toward cliffs. Coordinated ambushes planned through spoken language rather than instinct alone. A herd's ancient countermeasures, refined over hundreds of thousands of years, could be rendered obsolete by a strategy invented the night before around a campfire. This is the moment prey species faced a genuinely new kind of threat, a predator that could outthink evolution itself. No amount of instinctual defense could keep pace with a species capable of solving the puzzle of how do we catch this animal fresh, every single generation, sometimes every single week. Herds that had survived every other predator on the continent for millions of years suddenly found themselves out-strategized by an opponent that adapted faster than biology could respond. That adaptability alone would have been frightening enough. But number 5 introduces something even more unsettling, a tool that didn't just kill from a distance, but reshaped the entire landscape animals depended on for safety. Number 5. Fire rewrote the map. Controlled fire, tamed by human ancestors at least 400,000 years ago and mastered more broadly by roughly 100,000 years ago, did something no predator before or since has ever managed. It let humans reshape the environment itself rather than simply hunting within it. Picture an ancient forest at dusk, dense with cover, a labyrinth of shadows where prey animals had spent countless generations learning every hiding spot, every escape route, every blind corner a predator couldn't easily follow into. That forest was safety itself encoded into instinct. Then imagine watching that same forest deliberately burned back, not by lightning or accident, but with clear intention in a straight controlled line again and again across seasons, clearing brush, opening plains, funneling animals into exposed ground where the ancient rules of hiding simply no longer applied. This wasn't a predator adapting to the landscape. This was a predator that had figured out how to edit the landscape itself. For animals whose entire survival strategy depended on cover, camouflage, and knowing the terrain better than any predator possibly could, fire was an almost incomprehensible violation of the rules. Imagine spending your whole life memorizing an escape maze, only to return one day and find the walls have been burned away and you're standing in the open with nowhere left to hide. That single realization that humans could remove the very ground you depended on for safety cemented something deeper than fear of a predator. It was fear of an opponent that didn't play by the same physical rules as everything else in nature, but fire reshaping a forest is still, in the grand scheme, a local event. Number 4 takes this same principle and scales it up to something almost impossible to comprehend: the disappearance of entire species, continent by continent. Number 4, the megafauna extinctions. Here's a number that should stop you in your tracks. Over the last 50,000 years, more than 178 species of large land animals, mammoths, giant sloths, saber-toothed cats, massive wombat-like giants the size of small cars, vanished from the earth. And overwhelmingly, this die-off tracks almost perfectly with one thing: the arrival of humans on each continent. Picture ancient Australia around 45,000 years ago, home to giant flightless birds, car-sized wombat relatives, and lizards longer than a small boat. These animals had evolved for millions of years with no experience of a tool-using, fire-wielding, distance-killing predator. When humans arrived, these massive creatures had absolutely no instinctive playbook for the threat in front of them. Within a few thousand years, a blink of an eye in evolutionary terms, most of them were gone. The same pattern repeats with eerie consistency across the Americas, across Europe, across every landmass humans reached. Species that had survived ice ages, volcanic upheavals, and shifting climates for millions of years collapsed within a geological instant of encountering people. Scientists still debate exactly how much of this was hunting versus habitat change versus climate shifts happening at the same time, but the timing lines up too precisely, continent after continent, to be dismissed as coincidence. Here's the sobering scaled comparison. Imagine an animal population that had weathered ice ages lasting tens of thousands of years, only to be erased within the time it takes a single human civilization to rise and fall. That's not evolutionary pressure. That's something closer to an extinction-level event with a face and a name. And for the animals who survived, who watched entire other species vanish around them, the lesson embedded itself deep. Humans weren't just another predator on the food chain. Humans were the reason food chains restructured entirely. You'd think nothing could top erasing entire species from existence. But number 3 shows that humans didn't just hunt individual animals. They began hunting entire species into cultural memory, using knowledge passed down across dozens of generations. Number 3, fear passed down like a language. Here's something remarkable that separates humans from every other predator. Animals don't just fear you because of what you personally might do. They fear you because of stories, warnings, and inherited caution passed down through generations that never even directly encountered a human. Consider elephants, among the most intelligent land animals alive. Research has shown elephant herds react with heightened alarm specifically to the sound of human voices, distinguishing them from other predator sounds, and reacting most strongly to voices associated with groups known historically for hunting them. An elephant calf born decades after any direct conflict can still inherit a matriarch's learned wariness, passed down through observed behavior across an entire family structure spanning generations. Picture an elephant herd generations removed from any actual encounter with hunters, still altering their entire migration route around an area purely because the matriarch's own mother once taught extreme caution there. This isn't blind instinct baked in by evolution over millions of years. This is closer to cultural memory, actively taught, actively reinforced, passed like a warning whispered down a family line. This is genuinely unlike almost anything else in the animal kingdom. Most predator-prey fear is either hardwired through evolution or learned individually through direct experience. But here we have species learning to fear humans the way you might learn to be cautious around something your own grandparents warned you about, despite never having witnessed the original danger yourself. Humans became the rare predator so consistently dangerous, across so many generations, that animals began teaching fear of us the way we teach children not to touch a hot stove, not through instinct alone, but through deliberate, transmitted knowledge. And if fear can be taught across elephant generations from something that happened decades ago, imagine what happens when the source of danger doesn't fade with time at all, when it multiplies, spreads across the entire globe, and never stops. That brings us to number 2, and the picture gets considerably larger. Number 2. There's simply no empty continent left. For most of evolutionary history, if a species pushed too hard against another, there was always somewhere else to go: new territory, an unclaimed valley, an island untouched by competitors. That escape valve is gone. Humans, as of today, occupy or actively influence nearly every habitable landmass on Earth, from dense rainforests to Arctic tundra to the edges of deserts. Picture a wide-ranging predator like a wolf or a tiger a few centuries ago, able to roam freely across enormous unbroken wilderness whenever local pressures got too intense. Now picture that same species today boxed into fragmented pockets of protected land, surrounded on every side by roads, farms, and settlements. There's no longer a direction to retreat toward that doesn't eventually run into human presence. This is a fundamentally different kind of fear than anything earlier on this list. It's not fear of a spear or a fire or a hunting party. It's the quiet existential pressure of having nowhere left that isn't in some way humanized. Species that could once simply relocate when pressure mounted now face a planet where humans are the backdrop everywhere, not the exception. Even the deepest ocean trenches carry traces of human activity. Even remote mountain ranges have trail cameras and research stations. If you're an animal today, humans aren't a danger you encounter occasionally at the edge of your territory, they're the permanent condition of the territory itself. That shift from occasional threat to omnipresent backdrop changes fear from a situational response into a constant, low-level baseline. And that brings us to the very core of the entire countdown, the single reason that ties every other entry together into one much larger truth. Number 1. You are the only predator that remembers every other predator on Earth forgets. A lion that fails to catch a gazelle today doesn't hold a grudge, doesn't adjust its strategy for next season, doesn't pass along a written record of exactly where the herd likes to graze at dawn. Nature runs largely in the present tense. Predators react, they don't strategize across decades. Humans are the one exception to that entire rule, and it's not close. We track migration patterns across years. We study behavior, publish it, teach it to the next generation formally in classrooms, in books and videos exactly like this one. We remember where a species goes to drink water in the dry season, and we remember it decades later. No other predator carries an institutional memory that outlives individual lifetimes. Here's the picture that ties the whole countdown together. Imagine every fear an animal has ever developed toward humans: the strange scent, the upright silhouette, the weapon that reaches farther than claws ever could, the fire that reshapes the forest, the extinction of entire species, the inherited caution passed matriarch to calf. Now imagine all of that knowledge, instead of fading the way animal memory fades, getting written down, refined, and passed forward indefinitely, growing sharper with every single generation instead of resetting to zero. That's the real reason animals fear humans more than any other creature that has ever walked, swum, or flown across this planet. It's not raw strength, animals have faced stronger. It's not speed, animals have faced faster. It's memory that never resets, strategy that compounds instead of restarting, and a species that treats every encounter as a lesson to be recorded rather than a moment to be instinctively forgotten. Every other predator in history has been limited by its own lifespan. Humans figured out how to hunt across time itself, and maybe that's the most sobering part of this entire countdown. The fear isn't really about what happened back on some ancient plain 2 million years ago. It's about the fact that we never stopped learning, and every animal on this planet, on some level encoded deep in instinct or passed down through generations, has learned that lesson too.